come join me. I'm going to be doing some air layering. And as I go, I'm going to explain what, why, where, how, all those good things. That's going to help you be better at air layering. Hey, it's Elise. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm out at my little Suriname cherry tree. Now, I want to do a very hard prune on this tree. It is finished fruiting now. And first, though, I'm going to do air layering. So I'm going to move the camera in on this branch because this is the one I'm going to be working on. Now, let me explain just a few things if you're new to air layering. What is air layering? Well, air layering is a form of propagation. It's under the heading of layering, and there's mound layering, tip layering, pot layering, simple layering, complex, compound layering, lots of different types of layering. Today I'm going to be doing air layering. Now this is how I do it. There are many ways to do it. Whatever works for you is the right way for you. So it's a form of propagation. So why do we want to air layer? Well, you get plants for free, for one thing. The plants you do get will be an exact copy of the parent plant. If the parent plant is old enough to produce seeds, flowers, fruit, the free plant that you got from your propagation efforts will also be more likely to produce flowers and fruits and seeds earlier. You'll get an older, mature plant. And then I mentioned free plants. So, what type of plants do we air layer? Well, practically anything you want to in the angiosperm family for the version I am showing you. Now, angiosperm is broken up. Angiosperm just means plants that makes flowers, seeds, or fruit, okay? In the angiosperm clade, which is a classification, it is broken down into monocot and eudicot. Eudicot used to be called dicot, so you still may see it that way. And those two classifications go all the way back to the time of the embryo. And it classifies the growth structure. What I'm doing today is air layering on a eudicot. Now, I'm sharing all this with you because if you go and you try to use this air layering technique on a monocot, it's not going to work. And I don't want you to get frustrated and give up. Let me show you a monocot. This is a monocot. Irises, types of lilies, cannas, things like that. You see, they don't have a big trunk, a stem. It all just kind of flows together. That's a monocot. And yes, you can air layer monocots, but it's a little different technique. Same basic principle. Now, this, as you can see, has a stem, a trunk, and off of that are numerous other stems and trunks. And their leaves, and then they'll flower, and then they'll fruit. So this is a eudicot. I found for me, if I know little basics like that, well, I save myself frustration for one thing. And the more I learn, the more I understand, I think the better I do. And let me share this with you right now from the very beginning. Take everything you read, everything you see, tweak it to fit what you need it to be. The more you practice, the more air layering you do, the more you'll feel good about it, the more success you'll have. And then you can build up all this great experience and be an air layer expert. Now, all of the air layering attempts will not succeed, just so you know. Okay, so when do we want to air layer? Any time that the plant is actively growing, so you don't want to do it in a dormant season. So it depends upon your plant and your growing zone. Usually the first of spring is a really good time because you have all the growth hormones surging through your plant. But there are some plants that you can air layer in the fall or really late in winter so that it's ready when spring comes around the corner. All right, let's get started. We know what we're going to use. We're going to use this little Suriname cherry. I've got my branch selected. What we're going to do is wound the branch. And when we wound the branch, there's hormones that are coming down, and they're called phloem. And those hormones contain an axum that carries growth regulators. It helps the plant grow tall, and it helps to build roots. So when we wound this and interrupt that natural flow, the plant's going to say, hey, I need to make more roots. That's how we make roots. So the first thing we want to do is sterilize all of our equipment, which I have, and then I'm going to cut me off a nice clean location. I like to use branches that are at least the size of my little finger. My thumb is better. But again, it depends upon your plant, the individual plant. Now I've got a nice area cleaned out here. Get those out of my way. All right, I'm not going to cut the whole end off yet. Get these out of my way. All right, now I can get up to it a little better. So I've got my area cleaned off. Just make it easy on yourself. You don't have to clean that much off. What we're going to do is make a cut about 2 inches. So some of the things that you're going to need is something to make your cut with. You can use a little paring knife, a pocket knife, a scalpel, a pruning knife, anything you want. I have just a little paring knife. I've even seen people use razors, box cutters, hatchets. I like my fingers though, so I'm going to use a little paring knife that I can control. All right, I have a couple of links of twisty ties laid out and ready. If you get all your stuff ready first, that helps. And it came from this. Of course, I have my clippers. Now I have some aluminum foil and I have some plastic wrap. Very important. I have some sphagnum moss, and we'll show that a little bit better. It's floating in water right now because sphagnum moss you have to get wet. I have also got a piece of the plastic wrap already pulled out. And for my rooting hormone, I'm going to use aloe vera. Now we're ready to go. I have all my things that I need assembled. I have my piece cleaned off. So let me position the camera a little bit so you can see a little better and I can reach it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is wound it. All you want to do, use your thumb as a guide, is go in here and cut around. You don't have to be real persnickety about it. Now, this is a little harder since I'm trying to stay in the camera view, but it's okay. Sometimes you have to work on it just a little bit. If your knife is really sharp, you can go right through. But be careful, this is a knife, knives are sharp. You only want to go through the bark. All right, now I want to come in here and scrape this off. Now sometimes you can peel off the bark, but this doesn't want to. I've tried it before. I'm just going to scrape it off. If you can see that green edge, that's the cambium layer. We have to get past that cambium layer. The cambium layer is the layer that transports the hormones and chemicals from the leaves down through the rest of the plant. And it is the layer that holds the hormones, that holds the phloem, that holds the hormones, the oxums, that helps us to build roots. So I'm just going to go in here and lightly scrape it off. I want to make sure I get all the bark. The bark is there to protect the cambium layer. You don't have to go all the way down into the bark, into the interior of your trunk. Just scrape it off. Get that nice bark, that nice interior of your trunk showing. That's it. Now, like I said, some trees, some limbs, trunks, sprouts, whatever you want to call them, branches, you can make your cut, and then this top piece will peel off. So it's nice and smooth, it's nice and clean. We're ready. Now, next you have to put some type of medium in here, something for those new roots to grow out into. And it has to be something that can stay moist. Mosses, sphagnum peat moss, Spanish moss. I've seen people use stripped up newspapers. There are some folks who use animal dung. You can use potting soil, a lightweight potting mix. So there's all these wonderful things that you can use. Practice. Experiment, whatever you have. All right, so I'm going to go back here to my little work table. I'm using a little leftover sphagnum moss that I had. You have to wet it first, and then you just wring it out. And I'm going to pile it in the middle of my saran wrap or plastic wrap. Now, you can use cups, yogurt cups, bottles. I mean, just let your imagination think about it and see what works best. Now, I'm going to pick this up, believe it or not, and try to slap it over that place I just scraped off. And here we go. Sometimes, if you have a helper, it's really nice. All right, I'm just going to lay that in. Where's the camera? There's the camera. Okay, I'm just going to lay that in. That's in the middle. Hold it really tight. Pull my saran wrap up. Wrap that around. And that's it. It's not quite as challenging as it looks. There's a little stem. Now, you do not have to use rooting hormone. I put the aloe out just to remind me to tell you to use rooting hormone. I don't ever use rooting hormone. But you can, anything you want to use. All right, you want to make sure that all of your moss or all of your material that you're using is inside of your wrap or your container, whatever you're using. If any of it is left out, it will dry out and it can leach up and dry out the rest of your moss. All right, so we have a nice little tight, firm, very wet soil or moss around the wound. Now, it is recommended that you put something around this to protect it from the elements, from the sun. Some people use a little piece of black plastic bag. Some people use aluminum foil. I'm going to use a little piece of aluminum foil. And we got these pre-cut pieces at the dollar store. So there was 25 pre-cut pieces for $1.25. I don't know how that works out money-wise, but it certainly is nice when you're out doing lots of cuttings that you don't have to stop and measure your aluminum foil. Going to come back and cut another little, there we go, so I can get a tighter seal. Okay. Neat. Neat. How easy. All right. Now, you can take your zip tie material. You can take cords. You can use thread. You can use whatever you want to. And go around and secure it just a little bit. Now, if your foil is really, really tight, you don't necessarily have to do this. But I like to do it. The more that material is sealed, the less likely that it is going to go ahead and dry out on me. I have to cut another piece. I guess the other piece fell off. And come down here and wrap this piece. Now, if you really, really want to ensure it, you can take a longer piece and go and wrap all the way around it. Oops, sorry. Like that. You can use old pantyhose. You can use the tape from grafting tape. But that's it. I'm going to put a little label on it with the date so that I know the date. I have in the past just written the date on the aluminum foil. Sometimes it will stay, sometimes it won't. So this is April 29th. My chances of that staying on that aluminum foil isn't really big, so I will come back, put a little label on, and just wrap the label around it and tie the label. So I know the date that I did this. In about 2 weeks' time, I'm going to come back, open the tin foil only, and see if I see any root growth. That way I can close the tin foil back up. Also at that time, check and make sure that your moss or your medium, whatever you're using, is still damp, because you always want to keep it damp. Those roots have to have a damp medium to go out into. But that's the basics. That's how easy it is. So you can take this format and tweak it to fit what you need. Once your roots have gotten large enough, and don't cut it off the first few roots you see. Let it develop just as many roots as you possibly can. That can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, depending upon your plant. Then you bring your clippers and you clip down here. Make sure you're a little bit past where the roots are, and you would clip there. And you would plant it. And you can trim that piece up more when you're actually planting. Now, as far as this part of the limb of your plant, it is best to go ahead and trim all that up. So the plant isn't trying to expend energy to support all of these leaves and the new growth. So I really like this one because I have a V here, 2 main V's. So when I go in and cut this off, I'm going to cut it on this V and that V over there. And when that sprouts out, it's going to give me a really nice bushy growth. And I'll cut these, trim those back some too. And I know it's sad, you know, you have this beautiful big plant, and you can always try it and not cut it back any. Some plants will work, some plants won't. But to help the plant get established, go ahead and cut your foliage off, at least some of it. I'm not cutting it off now, again, because I want all the plant's energy to go to the air layering. But that's basically it, folks. And you get loads of free plants. however much time you want to expend doing your air layering. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 more air layers on this particular Suriname cherry. And I have several other trees in the landscape I'm going to do air layering on. I came back and put a label on here so I would know exactly when I did this. I also did several more of the air layering while I was out here. There's one over on that side, and there's one on the other side we can't see. Also, while I was out here, I did a little bit on a muscadine vine, just for the fun of it. But my muscadine is fixing to just burst out in grapes, so I don't want to mess with it too much. So this is it. I'm going to go and work on some more trees now. Till we speak again, I hope that you have a fantastic day.